want to talk with you. You're going to be at the border tomorrow.
Sure.
It's a big part of us here in Arizona. So,
Of course.
what do you plan to do to learn from that and kind of make it more than just a photo op?
Yeah, well, I think you have to understand the human cost of the border crisis. You've got a lot of children innocently who have been sex trafficked, who have been used really as slaves by the Mexican drug cartels. Obviously, you have a lot of drugs coming across the southern border, and I think that what I hope to gain is just an appreciation of the human toll of some of Kamala Harris's border policies. And I also want to talk to Border Patrol about what has worked and what doesn't work and trying to push this stuff back. You know, a lot of this stuff is basic empowerment of law enforcement. If somebody tries to come across the border illegally, you need Border Patrol empowered to say, no, you have to come through the proper channels. And so I'm going to talk to a lot of our Border Patrol guys about what that looks like, what's different about the Harris administration, and how we could do better in a second Trump administration.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the news of the day with Donald Trump saying that he sees the VP as not a large part of getting to the presidency. What do you think your impact is on getting to the presidency?
Well, I think the president has said this actually well before he selected me to be his running mate, and he continues to say it now, which is true. That most people are voting for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump or maybe against one of those two candidates. The president is really setting the agenda, is driving the policy conversation, and I think most people are picking the top of the ticket when they vote. Now, obviously, we have some influence and certainly want to help the president govern, but I think he's just making a basic statement of political reality that most people are voting for the top of the ticket. I just think that's true.
I want to talk a little bit about your comments when you talked about people who were childless should maybe get less of a vote, people who had more children should have more votes. And do you believe in one person, one vote?
Well, certainly believe in one person, one vote. I mean, look, the Democrats have completely lied about what I said. They said, for example, that I was attacking people who suffer from infertility. That couldn't be further from the truth. Our heart breaks for anybody who wants to have a baby and can't. What I did say is that I think that the modern Democratic Party has become anti-family and anti-child. And you see this in a whole host of ways, but most notoriously when you see some senior Democrat officials, including Kamala Harris, suggest that maybe women shouldn't have babies because of fears over climate change. I just think that's bizarre rhetoric, and I want to build a Republican Party that makes it easier for moms and young families to bring life into the world, that solves some of the health care problems, these surprise medical bills that new parents get when they go and have a baby, that brings down the cost of housing so you can actually afford to raise your family in a nice home. We want to be the pro-family party, and unfortunately, I think Democrats and Republicans used to agree on that. I don't know that Democrats today actually stand for parents and children.
When you talk about being the pro-family party, though, you'll be missing a vote tomorrow on expanding the child tax credit. So, I mean, that's a very substantial way you might be able to make an impact.
Look, I'm a huge advocate of expanding the child tax credit, and in fact, my fingerprints are on some of the legislation to expand the child tax credit. But unfortunately, the most important thing for me to advance the cause of families and children is to win this presidential election, and that's being here in Arizona, that's being at the border tomorrow, to try to make sure that we get the votes we need to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. Unfortunately, any tax policy signed by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, it's not going to be the best tax policy. We've got to get a new administration in there, so we're here trying to make sure that Donald Trump is elected the next president.
I want to talk a little bit about what you just said. You were saying that you weren't attacking anyone who was infertile, maybe unable to have children, but you were talking about people who have chosen not to have children, or chosen not to have children in the traditional way. Why to you does it matter how a woman decides to not have a child or not?
Well, that's not true, actually. I was not attacking people who choose not to have children. I was not attacking people who don't choose because of infertility or other reasons. I was attacking a mindset, a set of ideas that has become very anti-family and very anti-child in this country. And look, it's extremely prevalent, unfortunately, among the leadership of the Democratic Party. I also think that it's interesting that the Democrats, instead of saying, we're going to advance your life, we're going to make it easier to afford groceries, we're going to make it easier to afford housing, are focused on a quip that I made 3 years ago instead of the issues that actually matter to most Americans. I think it's a huge insult.
Do you stand by it?
I think it's a huge, well, again, I just rejected the premise, and I think it's a huge insult to the American people that the media and the leading Democratic contender for president is not talking about how they're going to lower inflation. They're talking about a sarcastic comment I made 3 years ago. I think it's a huge insult to the American people and to the voters.
Do you see how it may have hurt people, though? To people who have chosen a lifestyle that they've chosen, to have a comment be made by someone who they may look up to, someone who they might see as their next vice president?
Look, I've already answered the question. What I've said is that I was criticizing a set of anti-child and anti-family ideas. That's what I said, and that's what I've done. I think that a lot of people, including, unfortunately, people like you in the media, have misrepresented what I've said instead of dealing with the ideas as I actually address them. And it's interesting here that we're having a conversation. I'm going to answer your questions, and you're going to ask whatever questions are on your mind. Where is Kamala Harris? Is she answering questions from journalists? Is she addressing the fact that she opened the American southern border? Is she addressing the fact that her policies made housing less affordable for American families? I'm happy to defend what I said because what I said is true. The Democrats have become anti-family. I think it's a huge mistake for our country to go in that direction, and that's what I said, and I stand by it.
Would you commit to voting for or debating the vice president for Harris?
Oh, sure. No, we want to debate whoever Kamala Harris nominates or picks, but we want to actually wait until there is a real Democratic nominee. I think, unfortunately, President Trump debated Joe Biden, and now Joe Biden's not even on the ticket. So I think the Trump-Vance approach is, let's see who the Democrats actually nominate. Then certainly we want to have a robust debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.